Ever felt trapped by procrastination, watching your potential slip away? The audiobook, Cognitive Architecture, Designing Your Mental Systems to Defeat Procrastination, offers a groundbreaking solution. You'll learn to engineer your mind for effortless productivity, transforming how you approach tasks and goals. Imagine tackling challenges with confidence, maintaining focus effortlessly, and achieving long-term objectives with ease. Don't let procrastination hold you back. Unlock your true potential and create a life of purposeful action. Before we go on, I invite you to download the free bundle, which contains the ebook version of this book and an executive summary of all the chapters with the key takeaways. Studies show that engaging with content through multiple formats significantly enhances learning and retention. Click on the first link in the description to claim your free bundle now and maximize your learning potential. Now it's free, but it won't be for long, so make sure to grab it while you can. Chapter 1: Raw Potential. Procrastination. The very word can evoke feelings of guilt, shame, and frustration. For many, it represents a seemingly insurmountable barrier between their current reality and the life they aspire to lead. But what if procrastination isn't the enemy we've made it out to be? What if, beneath the surface of missed deadlines and unfinished projects, lies a wellspring of untapped potential just waiting to be unleashed? As you embark on this journey to redesign your cognitive architecture, it's crucial to recognize that you are not starting from scratch. You are not broken, lazy, or fundamentally flawed. Instead, you possess a wealth of raw potential, a reservoir of energy, creativity, and drive that has simply been misdirected or suppressed by ineffective mental patterns and environmental factors. This chapter serves as the foundation for everything that follows. Here, we'll begin the process of shifting your perspective, helping you see yourself not as a chronic procrastinator, but as a capable individual with immense latent abilities. By reframing your relationship with productivity and recognizing the adaptive nature of what we typically label as laziness, you'll prime your mind for the transformative work ahead. Let's start by considering what you can realistically achieve as you work through this book for the first time. The initial goal isn't to become a productivity machine overnight. That's neither sustainable nor desirable. Instead, focus on developing a foundational sense of self-trust regarding your personal capabilities. This means learning to recognize and appreciate your strengths, even if they're not always apparent in your day-to-day actions. As you progress, you'll begin to shift your view of laziness from a personal weakness to one of latent potential. This subtle but powerful change in perspective will allow you to approach challenges with curiosity rather than self-judgment. You'll start to see periods of inactivity not as failures, but as opportunities to understand and recalibrate your internal systems. Perhaps most importantly, you'll begin to recognize early signs of productive momentum as you apply the initial concepts presented in this book. These small wins, however modest they may seem, are crucial. They serve as tangible evidence of your capacity for change and growth, reinforcing your newfound self-trust and motivating further action. But what can this lead to over time if you continue to apply and refine these principles? The long-term benefits are profound and far-reaching. First and foremost, you can expect a steadily increasing capacity to initiate and sustain effort. Tasks that once seemed daunting will become manageable, and you'll find yourself tackling challenges with a sense of confidence and ease that may have seemed impossible before. This growth in capability is accompanied by the development of a more resilient mindset. Obstacles that might have once derailed your progress entirely will be reframed as opportunities for learning and adaptation. This resilience isn't about gritting your teeth and pushing through discomfort. It's about developing the flexibility and problem-solving skills to navigate challenges effectively. As your new habits and mental frameworks solidify, you'll experience longer periods of consistent productivity that feel natural rather than forced. This is the holy grail of personal development, the point at which doing the right thing becomes easier than procrastinating. It's a state where your actions align seamlessly with your intentions, driven by intrinsic motivation rather than external pressure. To achieve these outcomes, several key steps are involved. The first, and perhaps most crucial, is identifying your personal patterns of inertia and reframing them. This involves careful self-observation and analysis, looking for the triggers, thoughts, and emotions that typically precede periods of procrastination. By bringing these patterns into conscious awareness, you gain the power to intervene and redirect your energy more productively. Next, you'll need to embrace a systems-oriented view of your mind and environment. This means recognizing that your productivity, or lack thereof, isn't solely a matter of willpower or character, but the result of complex interactions between your thoughts, habits, surroundings, and external influences. By adopting this perspective, you open yourself up to a wide range of potential interventions and improvements. With this foundation in place, you can begin establishing a baseline set of supports, both mental and structural, that will be refined over time. These might include simple routines, environmental adjustments, or new ways of framing tasks and challenges. The key is to start small and build incrementally, creating a stable platform for more advanced strategies later on. Why are these steps important, and why have they been arranged in this particular order? The sequence is deliberate and based on principles of effective behavior change. Starting with mindset shifts ensures a stable foundation for all subsequent techniques. By addressing your fundamental beliefs and self-perception first, you create fertile ground for new habits and strategies to take root. Mapping cognitive patterns early on provides a roadmap for targeted interventions. Without this self-knowledge, attempts at change can feel scattershot and ineffective. By understanding the specific mental and environmental factors that contribute to your procrastination, you can make precise, impactful adjustments. Introducing scaffolding and incentive systems at the outset lays the groundwork for smoother integration of more complex strategies later. These initial supports provide immediate benefits while also preparing you for the more sophisticated techniques introduced in later chapters. They act as training wheels, allowing you to experience small successes that build confidence and momentum. Central to this entire process is understanding the latent energy within you. This involves recognizing untapped strengths and reframing your self-perception. Many people who struggle with procrastination have internalized negative beliefs about their capabilities, often based on past experiences or societal expectations. By consciously identifying and challenging these limiting beliefs, you can begin to unlock your true potential. This process of self-discovery isn't just about boosting confidence. It's about accurately assessing your abilities and resources. You likely possess skills, knowledge, and personal qualities that can be leveraged to overcome procrastination, even if you haven't recognized them as such before. By embracing your creative core as a driving force, you tap into a wellspring of motivation and problem-solving ability that can propel you forward. A crucial aspect of this journey is reframing laziness as adaptive behavior. This doesn't mean excusing or justifying procrastination, but rather understanding it as a protective mechanism that has served some purpose in your life. Perhaps it's shielded you from the fear of failure or helped you cope with overwhelming expectations. By separating inertia from personal inadequacy, you create space for compassionate self-examination and constructive change. Understanding these protective mechanisms allows you to address the root causes of procrastination rather than just its symptoms. Instead of battling against your own mind, you can work with it, redirecting its adaptive capacities towards more productive ends. This new awareness becomes the spark for transformative action, allowing you to make changes that are aligned with your deeper needs and motivations. The final piece of this foundational work involves shifting your mindset before attempting structural changes. This means achieving mental readiness for the journey ahead, cultivating a sense of curiosity and openness to new possibilities. It involves valuing your internal resources as the true engine of productivity, rather than relying solely on external motivators or punitive self-discipline. By setting a tone of intentional engagement with the process, you position yourself for long-term success. This isn't about forcing yourself into a rigid productivity system, but but about creating a flexible, personalized approach that evolves with you over time. It's about building a relationship with your work and goals that is based on self-trust, curiosity, and a genuine desire for growth. As we conclude this chapter, it's important to recognize that the journey ahead will not always be smooth or linear. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and periods where old habits reassert themselves. This is not only normal, but an essential part of the learning process. Each challenge you encounter is an opportunity to refine your understanding and adjust your approach. Remember, the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. By embracing your raw potential and committing to this process of cognitive redesign, you're taking the first step towards a more productive, fulfilling life. The strategies and insights in the following chapters will build upon this foundation, providing you with a comprehensive toolkit for overcoming procrastination and achieving your goals. As we move forward, keep in mind that this journey is about more than just getting things done. It's about aligning your actions with your values, unleashing your creativity, and living with greater purpose and satisfaction. The path ahead may be challenging, but it's also filled with possibility. Are you ready to discover just how much you're capable of? In the next chapter, we'll delve into the fascinating world of ecosystem mapping, where you'll learn to visualize your mind as an interconnected cognitive landscape. This powerful technique will allow you to pinpoint exactly where inertia thrives and effort falters, setting the stage for precise, targeted interventions. But for now, take a moment to appreciate the potential within you. The journey of transformation has already begun. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Ecosystem Mapping. Imagine for a moment that your mind is not just a collection of thoughts and habits, but a living, breathing ecosystem. This mental landscape is as rich and complex as any natural environment, with its own unique features, inhabitants, and hidden connections. Just as a forest or coral reef maintains a delicate balance through countless interactions, your cognitive ecosystem sustains itself through intricate networks of habits, emotions, and decision-making processes. This chapter introduces you to the art and science of ecosystem mapping, a powerful tool for understanding and reshaping your mental landscape. But why is this approach so crucial in our quest to overcome procrastination? The answer lies in the very nature of our minds and the challenges we face. Too often, we approach productivity and personal growth as if our minds were simple machines. Input goes in, output comes out. We try to force change through sheer willpower or by adopting one-size-fits-all solutions. But anyone who has struggled with procrastination knows that this approach rarely yields lasting results. Our minds are far more complex and nuanced than any machine, and lasting change requires a deeper understanding of our internal workings. Ecosystem mapping allows us to see beyond surface-level behaviors and glimpse the underlying structures that shape our actions. It's like having a detailed topographical map of your mental terrain, complete with hidden caves, underground rivers, and fertile valleys. With this map in hand, you can navigate your inner landscape with greater precision and purpose. But what exactly are we mapping? At its core, ecosystem mapping involves charting the interconnected web of habits, triggers, emotional responses, and decision-making loops that make up your cognitive environment. It's about uncovering the hidden pathways that lead to procrastination, as well as the untapped resources that can fuel productivity. One of the most powerful aspects of this approach is that it allows for targeted adjustments rather than random attempts at change. Instead of blindly adopting new habits or techniques, you can identify specific points of intervention that will have the greatest impact. It's the difference between trying to change the course of a river by randomly moving rocks and understanding the river's flow well enough to make a single, strategic adjustment that redirects its entire path. Moreover, ecosystem mapping provides a visual blueprint for incremental improvements. As you chart your mental landscape, you'll begin to see patterns and connections that were previously invisible. This visual representation not only clarifies your current state, but also illuminates potential paths forward. It's like having a living document of your cognitive architecture that evolves as you grow and change. To truly grasp the power of ecosystem mapping, we need to shift our perspective and begin conceptualizing the mind as an integrated network of habits and triggers. This network isn't static. It's a dynamic system in constant flux, responding to both internal and external stimuli. Every thought, emotion, and action ripples through this network, reinforcing some connections and weakening others. Within this network, certain areas act as productivity bottlenecks. These are the points where energy and motivation tend to get stuck or dissipate. They might be specific thought patterns, emotional triggers, or environmental factors that consistently derail your efforts. Identifying these bottlenecks is crucial because they often represent the most leverage points for change. But it's not all about problems and obstacles. Your cognitive ecosystem also contains existing strengths and resources that can be leveraged for greater productivity. These might be positive habits you've already developed, areas of natural focus and motivation, or untapped skills and knowledge. Recognizing and amplifying these strengths is just as important as addressing weaknesses. So, how do we go about mapping this complex internal landscape? There are several tools and techniques we can employ to illuminate the structures and patterns of our minds. One of the most fundamental is structured reflection, a systematic approach to observing and analyzing your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors over time. This isn't about passive navel-gazing or unfocused journaling. Structured reflection involves asking specific questions and looking for particular patterns. You might, for example, track your energy levels and focus throughout the day, noting what activities or thoughts precede periods of high productivity or deep procrastination. Over time, these observations begin to reveal the contours of your cognitive terrain. Visual models can be incredibly helpful in representing the interconnections within your mental ecosystem. These might take the form of mind maps, flowcharts, or more abstract diagrams. The key is to find a visual language that resonates with you and allows you to capture the complexity of your internal world in a way that's both meaningful and actionable. As you engage in this mapping process, you'll start to identify key connections and loops within your cognitive ecosystem. Some of these will be feedback loops that perpetuate inactivity, patterns of thought or behavior that reinforce procrastination. For instance, you might notice that postponing a task leads to anxiety, which in turn makes the task seem even more daunting, leading to further postponement. But you'll also uncover positive reinforcement chains that boost motivation. These are the mental and behavioral sequences that lead to productivity and satisfaction. By identifying these positive loops, you can learn to trigger and amplify them intentionally. Perhaps most importantly, ecosystem mapping allows you to pinpoint strategic weak points for intervention. These are the places in your cognitive network where a small change can have outsized effects. It might be a particular thought pattern that, when interrupted, breaks a cycle of procrastination. Or it could be an environmental cue that, when altered, sets off a cascade of productive behaviors. To make this process more concrete, let's explore a few practical exercises that can help you begin mapping your own cognitive ecosystem. One simple but powerful technique is to create a diagram showing recurring thought triggers. Start by identifying a common procrastination scenario in your life. Then, trace back the chain of thoughts and emotions that typically lead to that moment of avoidance. You might be surprised at how far back the roots of procrastination extend. Another useful tool is implementing a daily log to track fluctuations in your focus levels. This doesn't have to be elaborate. A simple scale from 1 to 10, noted at regular intervals throughout the day, can reveal a lot about your natural rhythms and the factors that influence your productivity. Over time, patterns will emerge that can guide when and how you approach different tasks. Pattern recognition worksheets can help clarify how various habits interrelate. These might involve listing your daily activities and noting which ones tend to follow or precede each other. You might discover, for instance, that certain productive habits tend to cluster together, or that one particular activity often acts as a gateway to procrastination. As you engage in these mapping exercises, it's important to keep in mind the range of possible outcomes. At the most basic level, you might end up with a rough map of personal triggers and habit loops. This alone can provide valuable insights and guide initial efforts at change. But with continued effort and refinement, you can develop a much more detailed ecosystem chart that reveals subtle interdependencies within your cognitive landscape. The ultimate goal, and it's an ambitious one, is to create a dynamic, regularly updated cognitive model that guides all your productivity strategies. This isn't something you'll achieve overnight, but rather a living document that evolves as you grow and change. It becomes a powerful tool for ongoing self-improvement, allowing you to anticipate challenges, leverage strengths, and make precise adjustments to your mental ecosystem. Of course, as with any complex endeavor, there are potential pitfalls to be aware of in the ecosystem mapping process. One common issue is overcomplicating the map. In your enthusiasm to capture every nuance of your mental landscape, you might create a model so intricate that it becomes overwhelming or impractical to use. The solution is to start simple and refine over time. Begin with broad strokes and major features, then gradually add detail as your understanding deepens. Another challenge is missing key triggers or connections. Our minds are adept at hiding certain patterns from us, especially those that maintain comfortable but unproductive habits. To counter this, make a habit of revisiting your notes and maps periodically. Fresh eyes and new experiences often reveal elements that were previously overlooked. Feeling overwhelmed by the mapping process itself is not uncommon. The complexity of our inner worlds can be daunting when we really start to examine them. If you find yourself struggling, break the mapping process into smaller, manageable steps. Focus on one area of your life or one type of behavior at a time. Remember, this is a journey of exploration and discovery. There's no need to map everything at once. As we conclude this chapter, take a moment to appreciate the power of the tool you're developing. Ecosystem mapping is more than just a productivity technique. It's a way of understanding yourself at a deeper level. It allows you to see the hidden currents that shape your behavior and provides a framework for meaningful, lasting change. But this is just the beginning. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to use the insights gained from your cognitive map to engineer a system of behavioral incentives. You'll learn to harness the natural flows of your mental ecosystem, creating an environment where productivity becomes the path of least resistance. Are you ready to dive deeper into the hidden structures of your mind and unlock new levels of potential? Chapter 3: Behavioral Incentives. Imagine a world where every task you need to complete feels not just manageable, but enticing. A reality where procrastination loses its allure and productivity becomes your default state. This isn't a far-fetched utopia, but an achievable reality through the strategic use of behavioral incentives. As we delve into this chapter, we'll explore a powerful approach to reshaping your relationship with work and productivity. But before we reveal the full scope of this strategy, let's consider why such an approach is necessary in the first place. Think about the last time you faced a challenging task. What was your immediate reaction? For many of us, the prospect of difficult work triggers an almost instinctive desire to avoid or delay. This isn't because we're lazy or incapable, but because our minds are wired to seek immediate gratification and avoid discomfort. This tendency, while natural, often conflicts with our long-term goals and aspirations. We find ourselves caught in a tug-of-war between what we want to achieve and what feels good in the moment. The result? Procrastination, guilt, and a nagging sense of underachievement. But what if we could realign our immediate desires with our long-term objectives? What if we could make productivity not just necessary, but genuinely appealing? This is where the concept of behavioral incentives comes into play. At its core, the strategy we're about to explore involves engineering a personal system of rewards and consequences that makes work intrinsically motivating. Instead of relying on willpower alone, we'll learn to harness the power of our own psychology, turning it from an obstacle into an ally. The importance of this approach cannot be overstated. By aligning our motivation with our chosen goals, we transform tasks from burdens into opportunities. Work becomes not just something we have to do, but something we want to do. This shift in perspective is crucial for long-term success and satisfaction. Moreover, a well-designed incentive system fosters consistency. When productive actions become inherently rewarding, we're more likely to maintain our momentum over time. This consistency is the key to achieving significant, lasting results in any area of life. To fully grasp the power of behavioral incentives, we need to understand the underlying psychology at play. Our minds are not always rational when it comes to decision-making, especially in the short term. We have a strong bias towards immediate rewards, even when we know that delaying gratification would lead to better outcomes. This present bias significantly impacts our choices, often leading us to procrastinate on important tasks in favor of more immediately pleasurable activities. Recognizing this tendency is the first step in counteracting it. Another psychological principle we can leverage is loss aversion. Simply put, we tend to feel the pain of losing something more acutely than the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. By framing procrastination as a loss of time, opportunity, or progress, we can make it less appealing. Perhaps most importantly, we need to reinterpret effort itself. Too often, we see hard work as something to be avoided or endured, but what if we could reframe it as a direct path to meaningful gains? By linking effort closely with reward, we can begin to see challenging tasks as opportunities rather than obstacles. With these psychological principles in mind, let's explore how to design a personal reward system that works for you. The key is to select incentives that are internally meaningful. Generic rewards won't cut it. You need to identify what truly motivates you on a personal level. This might involve some introspection. What do you genuinely enjoy or value? What small pleasures or achievements make you feel satisfied? These can range from tangible rewards to more abstract forms of recognition or self-affirmation. Once you've identified potential rewards, the next step is to create a balanced system. This means incorporating both positive reinforcement, rewards, and negative consequences, penalties, for optimal effect. The goal isn't to punish yourself, but to create a structure that naturally guides you towards productive behavior. It's also important to scale your incentives according to task complexity. Smaller, routine tasks might warrant modest rewards, while more challenging or long-term projects could be linked to more significant incentives. This scaling helps maintain motivation across different types of work. One powerful tool in creating an effective incentive system is the use of commitment devices and contracts. These are ways of externalizing accountability, making your intentions and goals more concrete and harder to ignore. A commitment device might be as simple as telling a friend about your goal and asking them to check in on your progress. Or it could be more structured, like signing a written contract with yourself that outlines specific tasks and corresponding rewards or penalties. The key is to create a sense of external accountability, even if it's ultimately self-imposed. This can be remarkably effective in overcoming the internal resistance that often leads to procrastination. When implementing these strategies, it's crucial to approach them with a spirit of experimentation and iteration. What works for one person might not work for another, and what's effective for you today might need adjustment tomorrow. Start by drafting a personal incentive chart that aligns specific tasks with chosen rewards. Be concrete and specific. Instead of vague goals like work on project, break it down into actionable steps, each with its own small reward. You might also experiment with setting up a daily penalty for missed commitments. This doesn't have to be severe. Even a small inconvenience can be enough to encourage follow-through. The goal is to make procrastination slightly less comfortable than taking action. As you become more comfortable with the system, try implementing incremental reward tiers based on task difficulty. This adds an element of gamification to your work, making it more engaging and satisfying to tackle challenging tasks. Remember, the goal isn't to create a perfect system right away. Start simple and refine your approach over time. Pay attention to what works and what doesn't, and be willing to make adjustments as needed. So, what outcomes can you expect from implementing a behavioral incentive system? At a basic level, you might end up with a simple list of incentives that motivates you to complete some tasks more consistently. This alone can be a significant improvement for many people. With more refinement and practice, you could develop a balanced, multi-tier reward and penalty system that sustains your effort across a wide range of activities. This more sophisticated approach can help you maintain productivity even when facing complex or long-term projects. The best possible outcome, and it's entirely achievable with persistence, is a deeply integrated incentive structure that seamlessly drives all your daily actions. In this ideal scenario, productivity becomes your default state, with the reward system operating almost subconsciously to keep you on track. Of course, as with any powerful tool, there are potential pitfalls to be aware of when implementing a behavioral incentive system. One common issue is choosing rewards that aren't truly meaningful or relevant to you. If the incentives don't resonate on a personal level, they won't be effective motivators. To address this, regularly reassess and realign your incentives with your personal values and current goals. What motivates you can change over time, so your reward system should evolve accordingly. Another potential problem is implementing penalties that are too harsh. While negative consequences can be effective, if they're overly punitive, they can lead to fear and avoidance rather than motivation. The goal is to create gentle nudges towards productivity, not to instill anxiety or dread. If you find yourself dreading your own penalty system, it's time to adjust, soften the consequences, or find ways to frame them more positively. Remember, the aim is to make productivity more appealing than procrastination, not to punish yourself for human imperfections. Inconsistent application of your incentive system can also undermine its effectiveness. It's easy to be diligent at first, but then let things slide over time. To combat this, make tracking and reviewing your incentives a regular part of your routine. Set aside time each week to assess how well the system is working and make any necessary adjustments. As you implement these strategies, you'll likely find that your relationship with work and productivity begins to shift. Tasks that once seemed daunting become more approachable. The urge to procrastinate, while not eliminated entirely, loses much of its power. But perhaps most importantly, you'll start to experience the satisfaction of consistent progress. The flywheel effect kicks in. Small successes lead to greater motivation, which in turn leads to bigger achievements. Your confidence grows, and with it, your capacity to take on ever more challenging goals. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, of course. It's a process of gradual change and refinement. But with persistence and a willingness to experiment, you can create a personal incentive structure that propels you towards your goals with remarkable consistency. As we conclude this chapter, take a moment to imagine the possibilities that open up when you have a reliable system for motivating yourself. Think about the projects you could complete, the skills you could master, the goals you could achieve when procrastination no longer holds you back. But behavioral incentives are just one piece of the puzzle. In the next chapter, we'll explore a complementary approach that provides the structure and support needed to turn your newfound motivation into concrete results. Get ready to discover how a few simple scaffolds can transform your productivity landscape and make sustained effort feel almost effortless. Chapter 4: Mental Scaffolding. Imagine you're standing at the base of a towering skyscraper, marveling at its sleek lines and imposing height. Now, picture that same building in the early stages of construction. What do you see? Chances are you're envisioning a complex network of scaffolding surrounding the emerging structure. This temporary framework isn't part of the final design, but it's absolutely crucial to the building process. In much the same way, our minds require a form of scaffolding when we're in the process of constructing new habits and dismantling old, unproductive ones. This chapter introduces you to the concept of mental scaffolding, a powerful strategy for stabilizing your productivity and preventing backslides into procrastination. But what exactly do we mean by mental scaffolding, and how can it help you overcome the challenges that have held you back in the past? Let's start by exploring why this approach is so important in the journey towards lasting productivity. When we set out to change our habits or improve our productivity, we often underestimate the vulnerability of those early stages. We might start with enthusiasm, powered by sheer willpower, only to find ourselves slipping back into old patterns days or weeks later. This isn't a reflection of personal weakness, it's a natural part of the change process. Our brains are wired to conserve energy and stick to familiar routines, even when those routines don't serve us well. Mental scaffolding provides the support we need during this critical period. It ensures consistency when our new habits are still fragile, reducing the likelihood that we'll abandon our efforts at the first sign of difficulty. By providing structure and reducing cognitive load, scaffolding makes new practices more manageable, allowing us to focus our energy on the actual work rather than constantly battling against ingrained tendencies to procrastinate. Perhaps most importantly, proper scaffolding acts as a safeguard against relapse. It creates a buffer between our aspirations and our old, unproductive patterns, making it easier to stay on track even when motivation wanes or obstacles arise. So, what forms can this mental scaffolding take? At its core, the concept revolves around temporary supports, tools and strategies that provide structure and guidance until our new habits become self-sustaining. These can include structured routines that act as initial stabilizers, giving shape and predictability to our days. They might also involve checklists and step-by-step guides that simplify complex tasks, breaking them down into manageable chunks. Another powerful form of scaffolding is the use of scripts or pre-planned responses to handle common distractions. By preparing in advance for the interruptions and temptations that typically derail our focus, we can navigate these challenges more smoothly, maintaining our productive momentum. Let's delve deeper into some practical scaffolding techniques you can start implementing right away. One of the most versatile tools in your scaffolding toolkit is the humble checklist. Far from being a simple to-do list, a well-crafted checklist can serve as a powerful cognitive aid, ensuring that you don't miss crucial steps in a process and reducing the mental energy required to tackle complex tasks. The key is to create checklists that are tailored to your specific needs and workflows. Start by identifying a recurring task or process that you often struggle with or procrastinate on. Break this task down into its component parts, being as detailed as necessary. The goal is to create a guide that you can follow even when you're feeling unmotivated or distracted. Another effective scaffolding technique involves establishing clear decision rules. These are predetermined guidelines that help you bypass moments of hesitation or indecision. For instance, you might set a rule that any task estimated to take less than 5 minutes should be done immediately rather than postponed. By removing the need to deliberate over every small decision, you reduce cognitive load and maintain forward momentum. Implementing time blocks can also provide valuable structure to your day. This involves designating specific periods for particular types of work or tasks. The beauty of time blocking is that it creates a predictable rhythm to your work, making it easier to transition between tasks and maintain focus. Start small, perhaps with a single hour-long block dedicated to your most important work, and gradually expand as you become more comfortable with the system. As you implement these scaffolding techniques, it's important to remember that they are meant to be temporary supports. The ultimate goal is to internalize the processes and habits they facilitate, eventually outgrowing the need for external aids. This gradual phasing out of supports is a crucial part of the scaffolding process. How do you know when it's time to start removing scaffolds? Pay attention to how you feel about your new habits. When a behavior starts to feel natural, when you find yourself automatically reaching for that checklist or settling into your designated work block without prompting, it's a sign that the habit is becoming self-sustaining. The process of removing scaffolds should be gradual and intentional. Start by identifying the support that feels least necessary and experiment with working without it for a short period. If you find you can maintain your productivity without it, you can consider removing it permanently. If not, there's no shame in putting it back in place. Remember, the goal is progress, not perfection. As you work towards autonomous productivity, free from external props, you may find that some scaffolds evolve into permanent parts of your workflow. This is perfectly fine. The key is that these tools should enhance your natural productivity rather than feeling like crutches you can't work without. To help you get started with mental scaffolding, let's explore a few practical exercises. First, try drafting a checklist for a recurring task that you often procrastinate on. Be specific and detailed, breaking the task down into clear, actionable steps. Commit to using this checklist daily for at least a week, noting how it affects your approach to the task. Next, experiment with time blocking. Choose a specific time each day, perhaps the hour right after you start work, and designate it for your most important or challenging task. Commit to focusing solely on this task during this time block for one full week. Pay attention to how this structure affects your productivity and focus. Finally, identify a common distraction that often derails your work, perhaps incoming emails or social media notifications. Draft a simple script or action plan for handling this distraction when it arises. This might involve a specific phrase you say to yourself, a physical action like closing your browser, or a predetermined time when you allow yourself to check these distractions. Test this script for a week, refining it as needed. As you engage with these scaffolding techniques, it's helpful to consider the range of possible outcomes. At a basic level, you might find that some tasks become smoother and more manageable with the help of these aids. This alone can be a significant improvement, reducing stress and increasing your overall productivity. With consistent application and refinement, you could develop a reliable set of scaffolds that consistently enable focus across various aspects of your work. This more comprehensive approach can lead to substantial improvements in your productivity and a noticeable reduction in procrastination. The best possible outcome, and it's entirely achievable with patience and persistence, is the eventual internalization of these processes. In this scenario, the external scaffolds become less necessary as productive behaviors become your default mode of operation. You find yourself naturally breaking tasks down, managing your time effectively, and maintaining focus without constant reliance on checklists or timers. Of course, as with any powerful tool, there are potential pitfalls to be aware of when implementing mental scaffolding. One common issue is becoming overly reliant on these temporary supports. While scaffolds are invaluable in the early stages of habit formation, the goal is to eventually work without them. If you find yourself unable to function productively without your aids, it may be time to start gradually removing them, one at a time, to foster independence. Another potential problem is creating checklists or routines that are too complex or rigid. If your scaffolds feel overwhelming or constraining, they're likely to increase resistance rather than reduce it. The solution is to simplify and refine your supports. Break complex checklists into smaller, more manageable parts. Allow for flexibility in your routines to accommodate the natural ebb and flow of your energy and focus. Inflexibility can also become an issue as your habits evolve. What works perfectly at the beginning of your journey might become less effective or even counterproductive over time. It's important to regularly assess and adjust your scaffolds. Are your time blocks still serving you well, or do they need to be shifted? Has a checklist become unnecessary for a task you now perform easily? Be willing to adapt your supports as you grow and change. As we conclude this chapter, take a moment to reflect on the power of mental scaffolding. These temporary supports can provide the structure and stability you need to build lasting habits and overcome persistent procrastination. They offer a bridge between your current patterns and the productive, focused individual you aspire to be. Remember, the journey to improved productivity is not about achieving perfection overnight. It's about steady progress, supported by thoughtful structures that make each step forward a little easier than the last. With patience and consistent application of these scaffolding techniques, you can create a stable foundation for lasting change. But mental scaffolding is just one piece of the productivity puzzle. In the next chapter, we'll explore how your physical surroundings can play a crucial role in shaping your behavior and focus. Get ready to discover how subtle changes to your environment can create powerful shifts in your productivity without you even realizing it. The stage is set for a transformation that goes beyond mere willpower, tapping into the hidden influences that shape our daily choices and actions. Chapter 5: Environment Design. Have you ever noticed how certain places seem to effortlessly draw out your best work? Perhaps it's a favorite coffee shop, a quiet corner of your home, or even a specific chair in your office. There's something about these spaces that just feels right, allowing your focus to sharpen and your productivity to soar. But what if I told you that this isn't just a happy accident? What if you could intentionally create an environment that consistently brings out your most productive self? Welcome to the world of environment design, a powerful yet often overlooked strategy in the battle against procrastination. In this chapter, we'll explore how the spaces we inhabit, both physical and digital, can become powerful allies in our quest for sustained productivity. But before we dive into the specifics, let's consider why our environment holds such sway over our behavior. Think about the last time you walked into a library. Without conscious thought, you likely lowered your voice and adopted a more focused demeanor. This automatic shift in behavior is a perfect example of how our surroundings can shape our actions and mindset. The truth is, our environment is constantly sending us signals, subtle cues that influence our choices, our focus, and our energy levels. Most of the time, we're not even aware of these influences. They operate below the level of conscious thought, guiding our behavior in ways both big and small. This unconscious influence is precisely what makes environment design such a potent tool in overcoming procrastination. By deliberately shaping our surroundings, we can create a context that naturally steers us towards productive action. Instead of relying solely on willpower, a finite resource that can quickly become depleted, we can leverage our environment to make productive choices the path of least resistance. One of the key benefits of this approach is that it reduces friction. When your environment is optimized for productivity, taking action becomes easier than avoiding it. Imagine having all the tools you need for a task within easy reach, or entering a workspace that immediately puts you in a focused state of mind. In such an environment, procrastination becomes more effort than simply getting started on your work. Moreover, a well-designed environment minimizes external triggers that can derail your focus. By controlling the stimuli around you, you can create a space that supports sustained attention rather than constantly pulling you away from your tasks. This doesn't mean creating a sterile, joyless environment. Rather, it's about curating your surroundings to align with your goals and values. Perhaps most importantly, environment design allows you to align every element of your surroundings with your desired outcomes. From the layout of your desk to the notifications on your phone, each aspect of your environment can be tailored to support your productivity goals. This holistic approach creates a powerful synergy where your surroundings are constantly reinforcing your intentions. To fully harness the power of environment design, it's crucial to understand the specific ways in which our surroundings influence our behavior. One key aspect is the presence of cues, elements in our environment that trigger specific responses or behaviors. These cues can be either productive or counterproductive. For instance, seeing a cluttered desk might trigger feelings of overwhelm and a desire to avoid work. On the other hand, a neatly organized workspace with your current project prominently displayed might spark motivation and focus. By identifying and manipulating these cues, you can create an environment that consistently triggers productive responses. Another important principle is that of least resistance. Our brains are wired to conserve energy, which means we naturally gravitate towards the easiest available option. By applying this principle to task engagement, you can make productive actions the path of least resistance in your environment. This might involve placing important tools within easy reach or setting up your digital workspace so that work-related apps are more accessible than distracting ones. It's also crucial to consider the interplay between your physical and digital environments. In today's world, we often spend as much time in digital spaces as we do in physical ones. Ensuring that these two realms work in harmony is key to creating a truly supportive productivity ecosystem. Now that we understand the importance of environment design, let's explore some practical strategies for modifying your physical settings. One of the most impactful changes you can make is to arrange your tools and materials for efficient reach and use. This might involve reorganizing your desk so that frequently used items are within arm's reach, or setting up a dedicated workspace for specific projects. Removing visual clutter is another powerful tactic. A cluttered environment can lead to a cluttered mind, making it harder to focus and easier to procrastinate. Take some time to declutter your workspace, keeping only the items that are truly necessary or that inspire productivity. This doesn't mean creating a barren landscape. Personal touches that motivate you can be valuable additions to your space. Consider assigning different zones for distinct types of tasks. This could involve having a specific area for deep, focused work, another for more creative tasks, and perhaps a third for administrative duties. By associating different spaces with different types of work, you create mental cues that can help you transition more easily between tasks. While physical environment design is crucial, in our digital age, it's equally important to optimize your digital ecosystem. Start by using software tools to filter or limit distractions. This might involve using browser extensions to block time-wasting websites during work hours, or adjusting your notification settings to minimize interruptions. Streamlining your digital interfaces can also have a significant impact on your focus. Organize your desktop, simplify your file structure, and customize your app layouts to prioritize the tools you use most for productive work. The goal is to create a digital environment where your attention is naturally drawn to the most important tasks and resources. Establishing digital routines can further reinforce your productivity patterns. This might involve setting up automated workflows, creating standardized folder structures for new projects, or using time tracking apps to maintain awareness of how you're allocating your attention throughout the day. To help you start implementing these strategies, let's explore a few practical exercises. First, take some time to reorganize your primary workspace. Focus on minimizing unnecessary movements. Can you group frequently used items together? Is there anything you can remove to reduce visual clutter? Make small adjustments and observe how they impact your workflow. Next, implement one digital filter to reduce distracting alerts. This could be as simple as turning off notifications for a particularly distracting app during your core work hours. Pay attention to how this change affects your ability to maintain focus. Finally, try assigning a dedicated zone for a specific project or activity. This doesn't have to be an entire room. Even a particular corner of your desk can serve this purpose. Use this space exclusively for the designated task and notice how it affects your mindset when you enter that area. As you begin to implement these environment design strategies, it's helpful to consider the range of possible outcomes. At a basic level, you might find that a slightly tidier environment marginally improves your focus. This alone can be a positive step, reducing stress and making your workspace more pleasant. With more comprehensive changes, you could create a streamlined workspace and digital setup that facilitates smooth work sessions. In this scenario, you'll likely notice a significant reduction in procrastination and an increase in your ability to maintain focus for longer periods. The best possible outcome, and it's entirely achievable with patience and refinement, is an environment so well structured that productive behavior becomes your effortless default. In this ideal state, your surroundings constantly reinforce your goals, making procrastination feel unnatural and productive action the easiest choice. Of course, as with any powerful strategy, there are potential pitfalls to be aware of when implementing environment design. One common issue is over-engineering your setup. In the enthusiasm to optimize everything, it's easy to create an environment that feels rigid or unnatural. The solution is to start with simple improvements and iterate over time. Make small changes, observe their effects, and adjust accordingly. Another potential problem is becoming too inflexible in your layout. While consistency can be beneficial, it's important to remain open to rearranging elements as your needs evolve. Your work patterns and projects will change over time, and your environment should be able to adapt accordingly. Neglecting digital spaces is another common oversight. In our increasingly digital world, optimizing your physical workspace while ignoring your digital environment is like cleaning half a room. Strive for balance, giving equal attention to both physical and digital optimizations for the best results. As we conclude this chapter, take a moment to look around your current environment. What signals is it sending you? What behaviors is it encouraging or discouraging? By becoming aware of these subtle influences, you've taken the first step towards harnessing the power of environment design. Remember, the goal isn't to create a perfect, unchanging workspace. Rather, it's to develop an environment that evolves with you, consistently supporting your productivity goals and making it easier to overcome procrastination. With thoughtful design and ongoing refinement, your environment can become a powerful ally in your quest for sustained productivity. But environment design is just one piece of the puzzle. In the next chapter, we'll explore a strategy that takes your productivity journey to the next level. Get ready to discover how embracing a mindset of continuous improvement can transform not just your work habits, but your entire approach to personal growth. The path ahead promises to reveal a method that turns every experience, even setbacks, into opportunities for progress. Are you ready to unlock the secret of perpetual advancement? Chapter 6: Iterative Prototyping. Imagine for a moment that your productivity system is not a fixed set of rules, but a living, breathing entity. It grows, adapts, and evolves with you, constantly refining itself to meet your changing needs and circumstances. This might sound like a far-fetched idea, but it's precisely the approach we'll explore in this chapter. Welcome to the world of iterative prototyping, a powerful strategy that can transform your relationship with productivity and personal growth. But what exactly do we mean by this intriguing term? And how can it help you overcome procrastination and achieve your goals more effectively? At its core, iterative prototyping is about embracing a design mindset. It's an approach that treats your productivity methods not as a finished product, but as an ongoing experiment. This might seem counterintuitive at first. After all, aren't we looking for the perfect system that will solve all our productivity woes once and for all? The truth is, such a perfect, unchanging system doesn't exist. Our lives, goals, and circumstances are constantly shifting, and what works brilliantly today might become ineffective tomorrow. This is where the power of iterative prototyping comes in. By viewing your productivity strategies as prototypes, temporary solutions designed to be tested, refined, and sometimes discarded, you create a system that can evolve with you. But why is this approach so important? First and foremost, it allows you to maintain momentum in the face of changing priorities. Life rarely follows a predictable path, and rigid productivity systems often break down when faced with unexpected challenges or shifts in focus. An iterative approach, on the other hand, thrives on change, seeing it as an opportunity for improvement rather than a disruption. Moreover, this mindset encourages learning from failures and treating them as valuable feedback. In a traditional approach, a failed productivity strategy might be seen as a personal shortcoming, leading to discouragement and potentially abandoning efforts to improve. With iterative prototyping, these failures become data points, offering insights that guide your next iteration. Perhaps most importantly, this approach ensures long-term adaptability rather than rigid adherence to outdated methods. It allows you to stay nimble, continuously refining your approach based on what actually works for you, rather than what's supposed to work according to conventional wisdom. To fully embrace iterative prototyping, it's crucial to start viewing productivity as an ongoing experiment. This means setting up rapid feedback loops to quickly identify what works and what doesn't. Instead of implementing a new strategy and hoping for the best, you actively monitor its effects, gathering data on how it impacts your productivity and well-being. This experimental mindset extends to how you view setbacks. Rather than seeing them as failures, you treat them as informative data. A strategy that doesn't work isn't a reflection of your capabilities. It's simply a prototype that needs refinement or replacement. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating, freeing you from the fear of failure that often leads to procrastination. Flexibility is another key component of this approach. As conditions shift, whether due to changes in your work, personal life, or broader environment, your productivity system should be able to shift with them. This doesn't mean constantly overhauling everything, but rather making small, strategic adjustments to keep your methods aligned with your current reality. So how do you put this iterative approach into practice? It starts with methods for testing and refining habits. One effective strategy is to begin with small-scale trials that carry minimal risk. Instead of completely revamping your entire workflow, start by experimenting with one small change. This could be as simple as trying a new time management technique for a single day or adjusting your workspace layout for a specific task. As you implement these small trials, it's crucial to track performance metrics to judge their effectiveness. This doesn't have to be complex. Simple measures like task completion rates, focus duration, or even subjective ratings of your productivity and stress levels can provide valuable insights. The key is to have some form of measurable feedback that goes beyond just a vague sense of whether something is working or not. When it comes to making changes based on your experiments, the emphasis should be on incremental tweaks rather than drastic overhauls. Small, consistent improvements compound over time, leading to significant long-term gains without the disruption and resistance often associated with major changes. As you progress through multiple iterations of your productivity system, it's important to incorporate the lessons learned along the way. One effective method is to document each iteration, creating a personal knowledge base that you can refer back to. This doesn't have to be an elaborate process. Even brief notes on what you tried, what worked, and what didn't can be incredibly valuable. Pay particular attention to recognizing recurring successes. If you notice that certain strategies consistently yield positive results, make a point of reinforcing and expanding upon them. These proven techniques become the core of your evolving productivity toolkit. Remember, the goal isn't to find a single perfect system, but to continuously add refined strategies to your repertoire. Think of it as building a diverse toolkit with different tools suited to different tasks and situations. Over time, you'll develop a flexible, personalized approach to productivity that can adapt to whatever challenges come your way. To help you start implementing this iterative approach, let's explore a few practical exercises. First, consider running a one-week test of a new habit. This could be something as simple as starting your workday with a 5-minute planning session. Record daily observations about how this new habit affects your productivity and overall mindset. Another useful exercise is to adjust a single element of your existing routine and compare your output before and after the change. For instance, you might try moving your most challenging task to a different time of day. Pay attention to how this shift impacts your energy levels and task completion. Lastly, experiment with introducing a small variation in your approach to a recurring task. This could involve using a different tool, changing your environment, or altering the order in which you tackle subtasks. Note the immediate effects of this variation. Does it make the task easier, more enjoyable, or more efficient? As you engage in these iterative experiments, it's helpful to consider the range of possible outcomes. At a basic level, you might see some improvement through simple trial and error. Even if not all your experiments are successful, the act of actively engaging with your productivity methods often leads to increased awareness and small gains. With more consistent application of iterative prototyping, you could develop a clear process for ongoing enhancement that steadily elevates your performance. This involves not just running experiments, but systematically analyzing results and implementing improvements based on your findings. The best possible outcome, and it's entirely achievable with dedication and persistence, is a self-sustaining cycle of constant optimization. In this ideal scenario, the process of experimentation and refinement becomes second nature, allowing you to maintain peak productivity over the long term by continuously adapting to new challenges and opportunities. Of course, as with any powerful approach, there are potential pitfalls to be aware of when implementing iterative prototyping. One common issue is becoming overwhelmed by too many experiments. In your enthusiasm to optimize everything, you might find yourself constantly changing variables, making it difficult to isolate what's actually working. The solution is to limit yourself to a few changes at a time, allowing enough time to truly assess their impact before moving on to new experiments. Another potential problem is ignoring data that suggests a need for change. It's easy to become attached to certain methods or tools, even when the evidence shows they're not as effective as we'd like to believe. To counter this, cultivate a mindset of openness and curiosity. Remain willing to revise your initial plans based on the feedback you receive, even if it means abandoning approaches you were initially excited about. Getting stuck on ineffective methods is another trap to watch out for. Sometimes, despite our best efforts to refine a particular strategy, it simply doesn't deliver the results we're looking for. In these cases, it's important to be willing to replace or discard strategies that consistently underperform. Remember, the goal is progress, not perfection, and sometimes that means letting go of approaches that aren't serving you well. As we conclude this chapter, take a moment to reflect on the power of iterative prototyping. This approach transforms productivity from a fixed destination into an ongoing journey of discovery and improvement. It allows you to harness the inevitability of change, turning it from an obstacle into a catalyst for growth. Remember, the goal isn't to find the one perfect productivity system, but to develop a flexible, evolving approach that can adapt to your changing needs and circumstances. By embracing an experimental mindset and committing to ongoing refinement, you can create a productivity practice that not only overcomes procrastination, but continually propels you towards your goals. But iterative prototyping is just one piece of the puzzle. In the next chapter, we'll explore a dimension of productivity that many overlook: the power of social dynamics. Get ready to discover how the people around you, both real and imagined, can become powerful allies in your quest for sustained productivity. The path ahead promises to reveal strategies that leverage the often untapped potential of social influence to supercharge your efforts. Are you prepared to unlock the hidden power of your social ecosystem? Chapter 7: Social Structuring. Imagine for a moment that you're working on an important project. You're alone in your workspace, focused intently on the task at hand. But are you really alone? Even in solitude, invisible threads connect us to a broader social fabric, a network of expectations, norms, and shared aspirations that shape our behavior in profound ways. This chapter introduces you to the concept of social structuring, a powerful yet often overlooked strategy for enhancing productivity and overcoming procrastination. But what exactly do we mean by this intriguing term, and how can it help you achieve your goals more effectively, even when you're working by yourself? At its core, social structuring is about harnessing the power of social dynamics to create a supportive framework for sustained effort. It's a recognition that humans are inherently social creatures and that our behavior is deeply influenced by the expectations and norms of the groups we belong to, even when those groups are not physically present. But why is this approach so important? First and foremost, it leverages our natural tendencies towards social validation and conformity to norms. We're hardwired to care about what others think of us and to align our behavior with the expectations of our social groups. By consciously structuring these social influences, we can turn them into powerful motivators for productive behavior. Moreover, social structuring reinforces discipline by introducing external expectations. When we feel accountable to others, even if those others are internalized representations, we're more likely to follow through on our commitments. This external accountability can provide the extra push we need when our internal motivation falters. Perhaps most importantly, social structuring strengthens motivation by making us feel part of something larger than ourselves. When we connect our individual efforts to broader values, principles, or shared goals, we tap into a deeper well of motivation. Our work becomes not just a personal endeavor, but a contribution to a larger purpose. To fully harness the power of social structuring, it's crucial to understand how to leverage social dynamics both internally and externally. One powerful approach is to view your mind as a small team with defined internal roles. Instead of seeing yourself as a single, unified entity, imagine that you have different team members within your mind, each with specific responsibilities and strengths. For instance, you might have an inner manager responsible for planning and oversight, an inner creator focused on generating ideas and solutions, and an inner critic who helps refine and improve your work. By consciously assigning and engaging these different roles, you create an internal social structure that can enhance your productivity and decision-making. Externally, you can set up accountability frameworks that mirror community standards. This might involve finding an accountability partner, joining a mastermind group, or even creating a personal board of advisors. The key is to create structures that provide regular check-ins, feedback, and support, mirroring the kind of oversight and encouragement you might find in a well-functioning organization. Another crucial aspect of social structuring is aligning your personal efforts with broader values and principles. This doesn't mean you need to take on grandiose missions, but rather that you connect your daily work to ideals or goals that resonate with you on a deeper level. When your actions feel aligned with your values, you're more likely to maintain motivation and overcome obstacles. As you engage with these social structuring techniques, you'll find yourself internalizing communal principles. This process involves adopting what we might call a collective mindset, a way of thinking that naturally considers the impact of your actions on others and aligns your behavior with shared expectations. One powerful way to foster this collective mindset is through internal self-dialogue. By consciously using language that reflects communal values and expectations, you can create a sense of accountability even when working alone. For instance, instead of thinking, "I should do this," you might frame it as, "We expect this to be done," creating a subtle but powerful shift in perspective. This internalization process also involves attaching deeper meaning to your personal work by linking it to larger ideals. When you see your efforts as contributing to something beyond your immediate goals, whether that's advancing your field, supporting your community, or working towards a better future, you tap into a wellspring of motivation that can sustain you through challenges and setbacks. Creating sustainable support structures is crucial for long-term success with social structuring. This involves maintaining accountability mechanisms that can withstand the test of time. Unlike fleeting bursts of motivation, these structures provide consistent support and guidance, helping you stay on track even when your enthusiasm wanes. One effective approach is to encourage constructive feedback loops within yourself. This might involve regular self-review sessions where you objectively assess your progress, acknowledge successes, and identify areas for improvement. By treating these reviews as seriously as you would an external performance evaluation, you create a sense of accountability that can drive consistent effort. As you become more comfortable with social structuring, you might find opportunities to expand your networks or environments in ways that foster heightened performance. This could involve seeking out mentors, joining professional associations, or participating in communities of practice related to your field. The goal is to surround yourself with influences that consistently elevate your standards and inspire you to greater heights. To help you start implementing these social structuring strategies, let's explore a few practical exercises. First, consider defining a personal code of conduct that reflects community-like expectations. This code should articulate your core values, standards of behavior, and key commitments. By explicitly stating these principles, you create a clear framework for decision-making and self-evaluation. Another useful exercise is to set up regular self-check-ins that emulate an external review process. Schedule these check-ins at consistent intervals, perhaps weekly or monthly, and treat them with the seriousness you would afford a meeting with a respected mentor or supervisor. Use this time to review your progress, celebrate successes, and strategize about overcoming challenges. Lastly, try identifying a role model whose approach or achievements you admire and mentally simulate their approval or feedback. When facing a difficult decision or feeling unmotivated, ask yourself, what would role model do in this situation? Or how would role model view my efforts? This mental exercise can provide valuable perspective and motivation. As you engage with these social structuring techniques, it's helpful to consider the range of possible outcomes. At a basic level, you might experience some increased motivation through self-imposed standards. Even this modest improvement can be significant, providing an extra push when your internal drive falters. With more consistent application of social structuring principles, you could achieve steady improvement due to consistent accountability and self-review. This involves not just setting standards, but regularly assessing your performance against them and making adjustments as needed. The best possible outcome, and it's entirely achievable with dedication and persistence, is developing a deeply ingrained social framework that makes slacking off feel incongruent with your sense of self. In this ideal scenario, productive behavior becomes not just a choice, but a natural expression of who you are and the values you hold. Of course, as with any powerful approach, there are potential pitfalls to be aware of when implementing social structuring. One common issue is becoming overly dependent on external validation. While external accountability can be a powerful motivator, it's important to gradually shift towards internalized standards over time. The goal is to reach a point where you're driven by your own values and expectations, not just the approval of others. Another potential problem is setting unrealistic standards that cause undue stress. In your enthusiasm to improve, you might establish expectations that are difficult or impossible to consistently meet. This can lead to frustration and burnout, undermining the very productivity you're trying to enhance. The solution is to regularly assess and adjust your expectations, finding a balance that challenges you without overwhelming you. Neglecting internal alignment with your chosen values is another trap to watch out for. It's easy to adopt external standards or emulate role models without fully integrating these principles into your own value system. To counter this, make a habit of regularly revisiting and refining your personal code. Ensure that the standards you're holding yourself to genuinely resonate with your core values and aspirations. As we conclude this chapter, take a moment to reflect on the power of social structuring. This approach transforms productivity from a solitary struggle into a communal endeavor, even when you're working alone. It allows you to harness the profound influence of social dynamics, turning them from potential distractions into powerful allies in your quest for sustained productivity. Remember, the goal isn't to become dependent on external validation, but to create a rich, supportive social context that brings out your best self. By thoughtfully structuring your social influences, both internal and external, you can create an environment where productivity feels natural and procrastination becomes increasingly rare. But social structuring is just one piece of the productivity puzzle. In the next chapter, we'll explore a dimension of productivity that ties everything we've discussed so far into a cohesive, forward-looking approach. Get ready to discover how strategic thinking can elevate your productivity efforts from reactive task management to proactive goal achievement. The path ahead promises to reveal a perspective that will transform how you approach not just your daily work, but your entire life trajectory. Are you prepared to see the bigger picture and chart a course for lasting success? Chapter 8: Strategic Planning. Imagine for a moment that you're not just a productivity enthusiast, but a skilled general preparing for a crucial campaign. Your battlefield isn't a physical landscape, but the terrain of your goals, tasks, and challenges. In this scenario, would you charge blindly into each day, tackling whatever comes your way? Or would you approach your objectives with careful forethought, anticipating obstacles and crafting plans to overcome them? This chapter introduces you to the art of strategic planning, a powerful approach that can transform how you navigate the complex landscape of your personal and professional life. But what exactly do we mean by strategic planning in the context of personal productivity, and how can it help you achieve your goals more effectively, even in the face of uncertainty and change? At its core, strategic planning is about adopting a broader, more forward-thinking perspective on your productivity efforts. It's a shift from merely reacting to immediate demands to proactively shaping your path forward. This approach involves carefully considering your long-term objectives, anticipating potential challenges, and creating flexible plans that can adapt to changing circumstances. But why is this strategic outlook so crucial? First and foremost, it significantly reduces reactionary responses to new challenges. When you've thought ahead and considered various scenarios, you're less likely to be caught off guard by unexpected obstacles. Instead of scrambling to put out fires, you can calmly implement pre-considered solutions. Moreover, strategic planning ensures a clear hierarchy of priorities to guide your decision-making. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to lose sight of what's truly important, often leading to wasted effort on low-impact tasks. A strategic approach provides a framework for consistently aligning your actions with your most crucial objectives. Perhaps most importantly, strategic planning helps maintain stability in the face of uncertainty or complexity. In today's fast-paced world, change is constant, and the path to our goals is rarely straightforward. By adopting a strategic mindset, you develop the ability to navigate this complexity with grace, maintaining productivity even when faced with unexpected twists and turns. To fully harness the power of strategic planning, it's crucial to think beyond immediate tasks. This involves anchoring your daily actions to long-range objectives. Instead of viewing each task in isolation, consider how it contributes to your broader goals. This perspective shift can dramatically increase your motivation and focus, as even mundane tasks take on greater significance when viewed as steps toward a larger purpose. Applying prioritization frameworks is another key aspect of strategic planning. These frameworks help you allocate your resources, time, energy, and attention more efficiently. By clearly distinguishing between urgent and important tasks, you can ensure that your efforts are directed towards activities that truly move the needle on your most significant goals. Managing your cognitive bandwidth strategically is equally important. Our mental resources are finite, and strategic planning involves being intentional about how we use them. This might mean scheduling your most challenging tasks for times when you're typically at your mental peak, or deliberately alternating between different types of work to maintain focus and prevent burnout. A crucial component of strategic planning is scenario analysis and contingency planning. This involves anticipating both common and uncommon obstacles that might derail your progress. By thinking through potential challenges in advance, you can prepare fallback strategies that allow you to maintain momentum even when things don't go as planned. This proactive approach to problem solving is particularly effective in combating procrastination. Often, we delay tasks because we're unsure how to handle potential difficulties. By having contingency plans in place, you reduce the uncertainty that can trigger procrastination, making it easier to take action confidently. Regular strategic reviews are essential for keeping your plans aligned with your evolving goals and circumstances. These reviews involve periodically stepping back to evaluate your progress, assess the effectiveness of your strategies, and make necessary adjustments. By scheduling these reviews at consistent intervals, you create a rhythm of reflection and refinement that keeps your productivity efforts on track. During these reviews, it's important to measure your progress against specific criteria. This might involve tracking key performance indicators related to your goals or simply assessing how well your current strategies are working. The key is to have concrete benchmarks that allow you to objectively evaluate your progress and identify areas for improvement. As your aspirations evolve over time, these strategic reviews provide an opportunity to realign your tasks and strategies accordingly. What seemed important a few months ago might no longer be a priority, or new opportunities might have emerged that require a shift in focus. By regularly reassessing and adjusting your plans, you ensure that your efforts remain directed towards your most current and relevant goals. To help you start implementing these strategic planning principles, let's explore a few practical exercises. First, consider drafting a prioritized task list and committing to reordering it weekly. This simple practice forces you to regularly consider the relative importance of your various responsibilities, ensuring that your day-to-day actions remain aligned with your broader objectives. Another useful exercise is to create a simple contingency plan for a foreseeable setback. Choose a goal or project that's important to you and identify a potential obstacle that could derail your progress. Then, develop a specific plan for how you'll respond if that obstacle arises. This exercise not only prepares you for potential challenges, but also builds confidence in your ability to handle setbacks. Lastly, try implementing a short review session to adjust your targets and reaffirm your direction. This might involve setting aside 15 to 30 minutes at the end of each week to reflect on your progress, identify any emerging challenges or opportunities, and make small adjustments to your plans as needed. Over time, these regular check-ins can significantly enhance your strategic awareness and adaptability. As you engage with these strategic planning techniques, it's helpful to consider the range of possible outcomes. At a basic level, you might achieve occasional forward planning that reduces some last-minute scrambling. Even this modest improvement can significantly reduce stress and increase your overall productivity. With more consistent application of strategic planning principles, you could develop a habit of strategic thinking that keeps your productivity stable, even in the face of changing circumstances. This involves not just planning ahead, but regularly reassessing and adjusting your strategies to stay aligned with your goals. The best possible outcome, and it's entirely achievable with dedication and practice, is developing a dynamic, proactive approach that gracefully handles shifting conditions without loss of momentum. In this ideal scenario, you become adept at anticipating changes, pivoting smoothly when necessary, and maintaining progress towards your goals regardless of external circumstances. Of course, as with any powerful approach, there are potential pitfalls to be aware of when implementing strategic planning. One common issue is overplanning, which can lead to rigidity. While it's important to have a clear direction, being too attached to specific plans can make it difficult to adapt when circumstances change. The solution is to introduce flexibility in both your targets and methods, viewing your plans as guidelines rather than immutable rules. Another potential problem is ignoring updated priorities. As your circumstances and goals evolve, it's easy to fall into the trap of continuing to work on tasks that are no longer as important as they once were. To counter this, make a habit of regularly reevaluating and reshuffling your hierarchy of tasks. Be willing to let go of activities that no longer serve your current objectives, even if you've invested time in them previously. Failing to foresee reasonable obstacles is another trap to watch out for. While it's impossible to anticipate every potential challenge, overlooking obvious pitfalls can leave you unprepared and prone to procrastination. To address this, consider increasing the frequency of your scenario analyses. Regularly take time to think through potential challenges and how you might address them. As we conclude this chapter, take a moment to reflect on the power of strategic planning. This approach transforms productivity from a series of reactive decisions into a thoughtful, purposeful journey towards your most important goals. It allows you to navigate the complexities of life with greater confidence and resilience, maintaining progress even when faced with unexpected challenges. Remember, the goal isn't to predict the future with perfect accuracy, but to develop a flexible, forward-thinking mindset that can adapt to whatever comes your way. By embracing strategic planning, you're not just improving your productivity, you're cultivating a skill that can enhance every aspect of your life. But strategic planning is just one piece of the productivity puzzle. In the final chapter, we'll explore how all the strategies we've discussed come together to create something truly transformative. Get ready to discover how these various techniques can coalesce into a self-sustaining system that propels you forward with seemingly effortless momentum. The path ahead promises to reveal the secret to achieving a state of productivity so natural and consistent that it becomes an integral part of who you are. Are you prepared to unlock the final piece of the puzzle and step into a new era of personal effectiveness? Chapter 9, Lasting Pulse. As we reach the culmination of our journey through the realms of cognitive architecture and productivity, it's time to step back and appreciate the transformation you've undergone. The strategies and insights you've gathered aren't just isolated techniques. They've coalesced into something far more powerful, a lasting pulse of productivity that beats steadily at the core of your being. This final chapter is about recognizing and embracing this new state of being. It's about understanding that you've not just learned new skills, but fundamentally reshaped your cognitive landscape. The erratic bursts of motivation and willpower that you once relied on have given way to a stable, self-sustaining engine of purposeful action. Let's start by reflecting on how the knowledge you've gained throughout this book can truly empower you. The most profound shift is the understanding that your productivity now stems from a solid internal infrastructure. You're no longer at the mercy of fleeting inspiration or external pressures. Instead, you've built a robust cognitive architecture that naturally channels your energy towards meaningful action. This internal structure allows you to approach new challenges with confidence rather than hesitation. Where once you might have procrastinated or felt overwhelmed, you now have a toolkit of strategies and a mindset that embraces complexity. You know how to break down daunting tasks, create supportive environments, and leverage social dynamics to your advantage. Perhaps most importantly, you've come to embrace ongoing personal growth as a natural extension of your capabilities. The iterative prototyping mindset you've developed means that you're always looking for ways to refine and improve your processes. This continuous evolution ensures that your productivity isn't a static achievement, but a dynamic, ever-expanding capacity. But the impact of your transformation extends far beyond your personal productivity. Consider how this new state of being can improve your relationships. The stability and calmness you now bring to your interactions can have a profound effect on those around you. Where once stress and frustration might have spilled over into your personal and professional relationships, you now exude a sense of composed purpose. This shift doesn't go unnoticed. You may find that you're increasingly seen as a role model of disciplined, purposeful action. Your ability to consistently follow through on commitments and maintain composure under pressure sets an example for others. Without even trying, you become a source of inspiration and stability in your various social and professional circles. Now, let's consider what you're capable of achieving that might have seemed out of reach before. Complex projects that once felt overwhelming now become exciting challenges to be methodically tackled. You have the tools to break them down, create supportive structures, and maintain momentum even when the path forward isn't clear. You'll find yourself maintaining focus under conditions that previously would have led to procrastination. Whether it's a noisy environment, a series of interruptions, or simply a task that you find unpleasant, your new cognitive architecture provides the resilience to stay on track. Perhaps most impressively, you now have the capacity to sustain long-term goals with confidence and composure. The strategic planning skills you've developed allow you to keep sight of the big picture while navigating day-to-day challenges. You're no longer derailed by temporary setbacks or discouraged by slow progress. Instead, you trust in the process you've established, knowing that consistent effort will inevitably lead to significant achievements. As you continue to practice the concepts outlined in this book, you'll find that your results improve with less and less conscious effort. This is the true power of the lasting pulse you've established. Each success builds momentum, allowing you to reach ever higher standards without feeling like you're constantly straining. Your strategies become more refined over time, minimizing wasted effort and maximizing impact. What once required deliberate thought and planning starts to feel intuitive. Productive action becomes a near-effortless routine that supports your ongoing success. One of the most satisfying aspects of this transformation is recognizing the sustainable rhythm you've established. You'll notice a shift from forced exertion to natural momentum. Work that once felt like a constant uphill battle now flows with an ease that might surprise you. This doesn't mean you're always operating at peak intensity. Instead, you achieve a balance between drive and rest without external pressure. You intuitively know when to push forward and when to step back and recharge. This sustainable pace allows you to maintain high levels of productivity over the long term without risking burnout. In this new state, you come to value incremental progress as a meaningful achievement. You understand that consistent small steps forward are often more valuable than sporadic large leaps. This appreciation for steady progress keeps you motivated and engaged, even when working on long-term projects with distant payoffs. To maintain the integrity of your cognitive architecture, it's important to conduct periodic system checks. These aren't burdensome evaluations, but rather moments of mindful awareness where you assess how well your productivity systems are serving you. Are there areas where friction is creeping in? Are there new challenges that require adjustments to your approach? Based on these observations, you can apply fine-tuned adjustments to keep your improvements solid. This might involve tweaking your environment, updating your social accountability structures, or refining your strategic planning processes. The key is to stay responsive to your evolving needs and circumstances. This ongoing maintenance also involves guarding against relapse through constant awareness. You remain vigilant for signs of old, unproductive habits trying to reassert themselves. But this vigilance isn't stressful or paranoid. It's a calm, confident awareness that allows you to nip potential issues in the bud before they can disrupt your lasting pulse of productivity. As you settle into this new state of sustained productivity, you'll find yourself naturally embracing expansion and growth. The systems you've established can be effortlessly applied to new challenges and domains. Whether you're taking on a new role at work, starting a personal project, or exploring a new field of study, you have the tools to approach these ventures with confidence and effectiveness. Your goals will naturally evolve as your capabilities grow. What once seemed like ambitious targets now become stepping stones to even greater achievements. This constant evolution keeps you engaged and excited about your personal and professional development. Perhaps the most profound realization is accepting that sustained productivity is now your default state. It's not something you have to constantly strive for or worry about maintaining. It's simply who you are and how you operate. This deep integration of productive habits and mindsets into your identity is the ultimate payoff of the journey you've undertaken. As we conclude this book, take a moment to appreciate the transformation you've undergone. You've not just learned techniques for being more productive, you've fundamentally reshaped your cognitive architecture. You've created a lasting pulse of purposeful action that will carry you forward into ever-expanding realms of achievement. This lasting pulse is more than just a personal asset. It's a gift you give to the world. Your increased capacity for meaningful action allows you to make greater contributions in whatever fields or causes you choose to engage with. Your steady, composed approach to challenges serves as an inspiration and stabilizing force for those around you. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. The lasting pulse you've established will continue to evolve and strengthen as you apply these principles in your daily life. Each day presents new opportunities to refine your systems, tackle bigger challenges, and expand your impact. You now possess a cognitive architecture that transforms productivity from a constant struggle into a natural, flowing state of being. Procrastination, once a formidable foe, has been reduced to a rare and manageable occurrence. In its place, you've cultivated a steady rhythm of purposeful action that propels you forward with seemingly effortless momentum. This is the power of your newly forged cognitive architecture, a self-sustaining engine of productivity that will drive you towards your goals and beyond. As you step forward into this new chapter of your life, do so with the confidence that you have within you a lasting pulse of productivity, ready to meet any challenge and seize any opportunity that comes your way. Your journey of growth and achievement is just beginning. Embrace it with open arms, knowing that you now possess the tools, mindset, and internal structures to turn your grandest aspirations into reality. However, to truly harness the full potential of your newly forged cognitive architecture, there's one more crucial skill to master. It's a technique that can amplify the power of every strategy you've learned, allowing you to manifest your goals with unprecedented speed and clarity. Curious about what this game-changing ability might be? The answer lies in the art of visualization, a powerful method that can instantly shift your reality and accelerate your path to success. To unlock this final piece of the puzzle and take your productivity to unimaginable heights, dive into the audiobook, How to Visualize Instant Reality Shift. Tap the center of the video now to continue your transformation journey.